Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hardwood Nation podcast with your boy CL Anthony and my main man Bryce Ward. Bryce, what is up?
Oh, not much, buddy. Same as always. Just glad to be here. How are you?
I'm alive. That's good on this early Sunday morning. I'm alive. Life is good. I have no complaints. We are about 9 days out from the beginning of training camp. How awesome is that?
It's been a long off season, and I cannot wait.
Has it though? It seems like it flew by this year.
It feels like when you've been waiting for the first game or the opening of the season, it feels like I've been waiting for that since the last season ended, and usually I'm ready for a break, but this year I was like I'm ready. It's the most excited I've been for a basketball season in a while.
hmm Well, we kind of had a low key trade request this week. Buddy Hield of the Indiana Pacers said I wants out. He was looking for a nice little contract extension. Both sides couldn't agree to terms. So the news came out that Hield is working with the Pacers on a trade to leave the franchise. Really quick, I want to talk about your team for a minute because your team could use shooting. I mean, all teams could use shooting. But do you think Buddy Hield would be a good fit in Orlando?
um, yes, I think he's the type of player who could fit in anywhere. Um, he's only missed like 6 or 7 games in his entire career. He shoots at like 40% from the 3 point line on like 8 or a little over 8 attempts a game, something like that. There's not, to be honest, I don't think there's a team in the league that would not want him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
His defense is what's the only real mark against him. He's just more of like a casual defender. He's nothing great. He's like I think he's 31 now. It seems like though it's more of like a role and paycheck in terms of what I guess him and the Pacers were having problems coming together on. And so I mean, yeah, the Magic could definitely use a guy like that. If they were to make the trade and get him somehow, I mean, depending on what they gave up, of course, I wouldn't hate it by any means. In fact, I don't think it's the worst move for them to kind of make that call on. It would literally just come down to what we have to give up in return, because there's a lot of teams that made that call about Buddy Hield, because quite a few teams really could use him. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't want to give up too much for Buddy Hill because it would be an upgrade for us. But depending on what we give up, if Gary Harris goes out on that deal and goes back to Indiana for Buddy Hill, then I'm just saying if he's one of the pieces, then we upgraded a shooting percentage for maybe like one guy, and Gary Harris is already our best 3 point shooter. So I'm not saying that would be the trade. I'm just saying like it would depend exactly what was going out, what was coming back in for me to be all in on that trade. But I definitely think it would be a slight upgrade, and it would change the team to what they're looking for, I think, out of that position. But I don't know, like I said, depending on how much Indiana wants back, I don't know if it's definitely not like the push all your chips in kind of move, I feel like you wait
Yeah.
for this year to see what you need, and then next year is supposed to be a big um what did I see the other day, like free agency class, or there's going to be more options for players next year. I personally think that's when the Magic try to push all their chips in for another big guy. I think if they can get Buddy Hill this year for like a decent deal without giving too much, then yeah, 100% you should do that. I just don't know. I don't know if they're ready to do that yet, and so I think another team probably comes away with Buddy Hield right now.
This is what I'll say about Buddy Hield, and this is no absolute no disrespect.
This is gonna be like a Drew Holiday comment, huh?
We're not talking about this guy like he's a franchise changing player. He's not that.
No,
Let's 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 just be honest. No one's going all in on Buddy Hield. Let's just be honest with that, right? He ain't no Jimmy Butler, he ain't no LeBron James. This ain't what we're talking about. But I think that, and the Pacers, with all due respect, have no leverage here at all. Like, no one's really chomping at the bit to throw their best assets out there for Buddy Hield, okay?
yeah, right.
But I believe at some point, and you're right about next offseason, but here's the deal. You have to become attractive to prospective free agents. And at least making a move for Buddy Hield now would show other free agents, okay, maybe they're finally getting serious about this thing, right? So the biggest asset that the Magic has is draft picks. You guys don't need to draft anyone else. That's done. You kind of have a young core right now. Work with it. You don't have to keep adding pieces to that core. So you guys may have to come off of a couple of draft picks. Not necessarily Gary Harris, but you still have to make a decision on Cole Anthony and Suggs. So, you might have to come off one of those guys, come off a couple of draft picks, then you can bring in Buddy Hield. That's the move I think that should be made. So we were texting about this the other day. You asked me who's a dark horse team, and I said, okay, we'll save it for Sunday. So there is one team that I've been seeing that's floating out there, and they're going to be just as chaotic as the Brooklyn Nets were. But the Dallas Mavericks are one of the teams that are interested in Buddy Hield. Apparently, they've already, as a lot of teams, has already talked to the Pacers, but the Pacers don't want to take back Tim Hardaway Jr. And his contract, so that's what's holding that up. But the Dallas Mavericks would be a nice dark horse team. I mentioned Milwaukee. They're not necessarily a dark horse team, but let's be honest. Milwaukee needs to do everything that they can to convince Giannis to stay at this point. just to start that
But
out there.
I will say this: they have to convince him to stay. Desperate moves like the one that we think Dallas made last year. Are these moves that are going to make these superstars stay after they've decided, yeah, they're going to stay this year, right? Like Giannis already said, whatever, like
Yeah.
2 years or something like that. I forget. But yeah, you may have bought a year, but long term, like in 2 years, is that superstar still going to be there? Because I still have my major doubts that Kyrie being there is going to keep Luka from walking or asking for a
Oh,
trade.
they didn't bring Kyrie in to keep Luka to stay. That's not it. Them bringing Kyrie in may force Luka to leave. Trust
Because I
me,
thought it was a
Luka.
move out of being desperate in the time frame. Like last year, they were supposed to be trying to make a playoff push and look better than they were, basically. And then the Kyrie thing was kind of like out of being desperate.
They were desperate for wins,
Mhm.
but that doesn't necessarily mean you were desperate for Luka to stay. Um, that's two different conversations because the type of player that Kyrie Irving is, him and we knew that wasn't going to work. So you don't bring in a player like Kyrie Irving if wanting Luka to stay is your first motive, you don't bring in Kyrie Irving.
How
You
old is Kyrie
actually,
now?
I think he's like 33. I have to look it up. But what you do is, if you really want Luka to stay, you surround Luka with shooters. So you actually go after Buddy Hield. That's what you do. Yeah.
If you
Uh,
were the Mavs and you were trying to keep Luka long term, would you have bit on the Kyrie Irving trade last year, or
absolutely
would
not.
would
Absolutely
you
not.
still keep Kyrie Irving over Luka, or would you try to trade
No,
Kyrie now for something better,
you
a
move
better
Kyrie.
fit, better fit?
Kyrie is 31, and you absolutely unequivocally move Kyrie. But here's the deal: right or wrong, because we know he's did some wrong, and we know he's caught some heat that he necessarily shouldn't have caught. No one's gonna give up anything for Kyrie Irving right now. They're not. They're gonna wait for him to be a free agent. They're gonna lowball him and give him a low end contract. He's not gonna get any more max contracts. That's dead. That is dead. Um, I would be shocked if a team gave Kyrie a max contract right now. I'll be totally shocked. So after Dallas, once this experiment is over with, and trust me, it will fail just like it did in Brooklyn. Um, Kyrie's going to be a minimum NBA player if he doesn't decide to walk away, because he might just do that and say, "Fuck this shit." His ego may be so big, he might just say, "I'm not a veteran type, veteran minimum player. No, fuck this shit." So who knows? Um, but
I'll be
Buddy
interested to
Hield could.
see. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I'd be interested to see because their teams get more desperate than I usually think a team will get in situations like that. I mean, I could see a team like Philadelphia after Harden leaves, if they get desperate enough to try to keep Embiid, getting in a position. I'm not saying Kyrie would go there, but I'm saying I won't be surprised if Kyrie gets more money than we think he'll get, if he doesn't get the max. I think there'll be a desperate enough team out there to try to lure him with something.
If I'm going to bring up a story. This is the God honest truth. I can't remember the year, but at the end of Allen Iverson's career, the Miami Heat were highly interested in Allen Iverson. I believe it was after LeBron got there, and we were bringing a lot of vets in. Allen Iverson was one of the guys that we really wanted, and we talked to him, and we asked him if he would come off the bench. He said no. He at his stage in that, I can't remember how old he was. He was like, "No, I'm not coming off the bench." His ego would not allow him to come off the bench and even play for a championship team. Okay, so we passed on. We were like, "No, we don't want you." And then, of course, he faded away. I can see the same thing happening with Kyrie Irving, to where his ego would not allow him to accept the role. Now, there's one main difference between the two right now, is that Kyrie already has a championship. He does. But that would actually give him more power to be like, "I don't need this shit. I've already won a championship. I'm out." So it's interesting to see what will happen once his Dallas run is over, because year one, or half a year, was a complete and utter disaster. Dallas was in playoff contention before Kyrie got there, and then the wheels fell off. Kyrie played great. Don't get me wrong. Kyrie gets his numbers. You can't stop Kyrie from getting his numbers. But the team itself fell, and there's something to say about that. And Luka was frustrated before Kyrie even got there, and he was more frustrated once Kyrie got there. So they need someone who can play off of Luka. Luka's name will come up, I believe, next summer. It's coming up really soon. Dallas is in a world of trouble. They are. They got to put shooters around them. They just have to. If they don't, Luka may walk. I'm just saying, Luka may walk. Chris Middleton actually commented on Giannis, saying what he says. And Chris Middleton was like, and I'm just paraphrasing, he's like, "Well, Giannis says this every year, or every time his contract is up." So Chris Middleton said he's not worried, because he's used to Giannis saying this kind of stuff. It's just that this year, Giannis has been more open in the media about it. But as far as Milwaukee and Buddy Hield, I think Buddy Hield would be a great fit with the Bucks, because the Bucks need to get younger. That's their issue. They just need to get younger. Move some of those old guys out, bring in some new blood who can shoot, and you'll be okay. Milwaukee doesn't have to make sweeping changes. Just a couple of young shooters, and they'll be okay. That's how I see that going. But you may have to come off of Chris Middleton, though, who's been hurt for the last 2 years.
That would. I don't think they do if they get rid of Chris Middleton. But
who else is going to move?
I mean, I don't know. I don't see them moving. I would move Chris Middleton for Buddy Hield.
My boy Drew Holiday. Like who else are you going to move?
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Giannis crap brother. Like who the fuck? Like who are you going to move? The only person on that team with value outside of Giannis is a healthy Chris Middleton, and that's been a question mark, like I said, the last 2 years. No one's going to take I love you to death, Drew Holiday. No one wants Drew Holiday at this stage of his career.
Still disrespecting Drew Holiday after he clowned you guys. I can't believe
That's fine. That's fine, because the look on his face last year when Jimmy Butler was clowning them was hilarious. Okay, clowning them. Um, no one wants Brooke Lopez at this stage of his career. No one wants Robin Lopez, who just got back to Milwaukee at this stage. Who the fuck are they going to give up? You have to give up Chris Middleton. You have to. That's just the way it is. You absolutely have to give up Chris Middleton. So moving right along to our once again too long story that's dragged all off season. The story that Bryce is sick of. Damian Lillard update.
That's because in my head, this story's been going on for like 4 or 5 years, I
think. So, the latest Damian Lillard update. Thursday night, it looked like this thing was going to get done by the weekend. It just everything pointed to it getting done. And then a funny thing happened. The Chicago Bulls, who tried to be the third team in the trade, now wanted to be the second team in the trade. The Toronto Raptors are still trying to be the second team in this trade. Damian Lillard has made it clear, if anyone else trades for me outside of Miami, I'm just going to ask you guys to trade me to Miami. So I'm having a hard time understanding why Toronto and Chicago are trying to make this late push to try to convince Dame to play for them when he said repeatedly he wants to be in Miami. So let me ask you this question. If you're a GM, let's say Toronto, because Toronto does have a lot of young talent. So Chicago has old talent. Toronto has young talent. So let's talk about Toronto. If you're the GM of the Raptors, and would you trade for a player who has said multiple times that he doesn't want to play for you?
I think if I'm Toronto, I take that chance more than Chicago does because it worked with Kawhi. But no, I wouldn't. If I was any team other than Miami, I wouldn't be trying to make a push for Dame. I think that's why he came back out again to remind everybody really how strong he's like, if you trade for me, I'm just going to ask for a trade.
Right.
And I mean, apparently it just doesn't seem like the Portland GM is happy with the offers. But as we know, when a guy says he wants to leave, that's not when you get the peak offer for him. You should have traded him a year or two before he asked for this, before it became so public what the intention was. You lost all your hand in the situation, basically. Yeah. And he's a new I think what it is just like, unfortunately it comes down to like an ego type thing. This GM doesn't want to come out of the gate and lose Dame the way he's going to lose Dame, but he's going to lose Dame. And I think he's trying to squeeze like the orange kind of for like all the juice he can get out of Miami. And Miami's like, we don't have to because nobody else is going to trade for him. I'm just annoyed with this because it's like Dame finally came to the realization that we all came to like 3-4 years ago. And I know this isn't the way superstars make or get to other teams anymore, but he literally could have just not signed with them. And you could have walked to whatever team you wanted. And so I get what you're doing now because that's what everybody else does. But it's annoying that Portland hasn't worked it out. I think Portland's not doing any favors for themselves in terms of getting free agents later because of this. It's a shit show, man. And I'm just ready for it to be over. We know how it's going to end. But I'm kind of annoyed with Portland. I'm kind of annoyed with Dame. Honestly, the team I'm least annoyed with in this situation is the Heat, which is weird because I'm usually most annoyed with the Heat tied to any free agent because they're tied to every free agent. That's worth it.
The Heat are chilling. The Heat are like,
I know. And that's what's annoying. The whole thing is annoying. I'm ready for it to be over. We know what the end result's going to be. The Portland GM needs to get it done. Just end this. End this before trading. God, I hate it. And that means what the funny thing is, once this gets done, we still have the Philly situation just sitting over
hmm
there.
hmm
I
That's gonna be the biggest shit show because the GM's like, I'm not trading you. So that's gonna be the biggest shit show.
yeah.
Couple of more things on Dame. When Dame re-signed, he re-signed under the pretense that Portland would try to build a team, rebuild a team around him and win the championship.
Mhm.
A few months after Dame re-signed, you moved CJ McCollum, who was Dame's number 2 guy.
Mhm.
I forgot you got some young pieces back, but you were better off having CJ McCollum there. And I think that put the writing was on the wall then
Mhm.
because you don't re-sign Dame and then a few months later trade CJ McCollum. Like you just don't do that. So one thing we talked about offline, so of course, so that our listeners can hear this and see this, and thank you for the 2 subscribers that we got this week. One of them is going to be a new contributor pretty soon. Um, Miami lined up Phoenix as a third team to facilitate this trade. So now, from Phoenix standpoints, it comes down to if they come off of Aiton because Portland wants Aiton. So that's one deal that Miami already has lined up. Okay. Phoenix will take Tyler Hero. Y'all figure out what y'all want to do with Aiton. Let's get this thing done. And Tyler Hero in Phoenix would be good. Let me just say that. That's a good fit for him because he's already a bucket. He is. Everything else aside, Tyler Hero is a bucket. You put him next to Kevin Durant, who is a bucket. You put him next to your boy from Washington, Bill, who is a bucket. All three of those guys are going to be open. It's
Mhm.
going to be nasty. So Tyler Hero would be a good fit in Phoenix. So it just comes down to Phoenix comes off at 8 or 9. The thing that's so annoying about Portland is that one, Dame has caused no problems there. Never been in trouble, never been in news for the wrong reasons. Always have been the greatest teammate there. If you won't accommodate a player like that, you just look foolish. We're not talking about James Harden. We're not
Mhm.
talking about Anthony Davis, who wasn't as bad as James Harden, but he's just like, I don't want to play for y'all no more. Just shut me down. I'm not doing it. Dame's not doing any of that. Portland actually shut him down last season when Dame was like, I can play. I'm healthy. Portland shut him down because they wanted to try to get Wemby. That's bullshit. That's
Mhm.
absolute bullshit. So Dame has handled himself accordingly this entire time. He's never made waves, never caused problems. And as a franchise, you won't take care of a player like that. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, Portland's gonna look so bad after this. Other players are gonna see this, and they're gonna be like, "Fuck that franchise." They're gonna be bad for a long time. They're already bad now, but they're gonna be bad for a very long time after this. Especially the longer this drags on. So, I know how you feel about Aiton. I know how I feel about Aiton. Do you think Portland should get him if Phoenix was to come off of him?
Sure, it'd be on par with the rest of their moves they tried to make while Dame was there and that didn't get them anywhere. I mean, they've made moves before. It's just none of it has ever been for the home run guy. It's always been to like slightly get better at center. Like the whole time McCollum was there, all they were searching for was a different big guy. It went from
Mhm.
getting what LaMarcus Aldridge at the wrong time in his career to eventually Nurkic, who was also always hurt or something. It's just like, but they never got another. It was just Dame and McCollum, and then they thought like
Right.
one more other piece would do it, but they never got the right piece in there. They
Yeah,
just
they
didn't
even
have
took
it.
a shot on Whiteside. That blunder from Miami. They took a shot on that. And they found out. They found out. Um, they've tried, but they did make the wrong
Mm-hmm.
move. And like I said, when they moved CJ, I was just like, at this point, they've given up. They've just given up at this point. Um, and I mean, yeah, they re-signed they re-signed Grant in the off season, but Jeremy Grant's not going to win you a championship.
Now,
I love you,
who do
Drew.
Who's the other? I thought he was a shooting guard. He might not be. Who's the guy who came on? Like, actually, he's played well since filling McCollum's shoes.
Simons.
Simon, yes.
Simons was
But,
drafted though. He wasn't traded
right,
for. He was drafted. But
right.
yeah, he's a Florida boy.
It looks like they have a piece there. Jeremy Grant, somewhat. If Scoot comes out and is great, then that kind of changes things for Portland. Yeah, I mean they're rebuilding again, of course, but
Yeah.
if legit, then that pushes things ahead.
Yeah. I had a dream about Scoot. I think Scoot's gonna have a good season. I think for a rebuilding team, because I didn't see Dame in this dream. So for a rebuilding team, I think they're gonna be okay. But you can't stop the process as far as at some point you have to rebuild. And Dame's been there for 11 years, and they've made changes, but they haven't really like blown it up altogether and restarted. So this should be that year that they do that. You just have to do it. You have
Yeah.
to. You can't. You just have to do it. Um, and yeah, that's where we are. We're still waiting.
I think the Portland GM
Still
knows
waiting.
that. I just think he's not happy with the results he's getting back from these teams. But you're not going to get what you. I just don't think he's going to get what he thinks he should get. So you have to do the deal anyway.
When
So
a team, when a player says this, I want to be traded, and I want to be traded to this team or a list of teams. At that point, you've lost all leverage. At that point, the business can be cutthroat. The business can be bad. Portland should have blindsided him. They should have just did it. Not tell them who they were talking to. Make a trade. You're going to get the most value then. But if you leave it up to the player to come out and say, I don't want to be here anymore, at that point, the franchise has lost all leverage. That's why Miami's just been sitting back quiet. We're like, okay, he wants to come here. This is what we'll give you. It's on y'all. We're not going to blow up our team for him. Like, look, we just came off the NBA Finals without him. You know what I'm saying? Did we lose two guys? We did. We lost Strus and we lost Gabe Vincent. We lost two starters. That's fine. We're the Heat. Next man up. We're not going to blow up our team for Damian Lillard. So if you guys want to take Tyler Hero, you can take him. If you want to take Kyle Lowry or Duncan Robinson, you can take him. Everyone else is off limits. You're not getting Jimmy. You're not getting Bam. You're not getting Caleb Martin. No. This is what you got. You want a couple of draft picks? We'll give you that too. Oh, you don't want Tyler? Okay. Hey, Phoenix, you'll take Tyler? Yeah, all right, bet. Call Portland. All the pressure right now is on Portland. Look, Miami even called San Antonio and said, hey, can you help us out? San Antonio was like, yeah, we'll get Tyler Hero. Hell yeah. Brooklyn. Oh, they don't want Tyler? We'll take Tyler. So Portland has said no to everything attached to Miami. Everything. Why are they doing that? Because they're fucking petty. This guy who's been a GM for less than 2 years is fucking petty. And he's going to find out because he's going to lose his job because of the way that he's handling this 2 years from now when no one wants to come to Portland, when they have a lot of money and no one wants to go there, he's not going to have a job by virtue of how he's handling this situation here. The minute that Dame said he wanted out, they should have moved Dame out. To anyone, not just because I'm a Heat fan, to anywhere. If Dame said he wanted to go to Boston, send his ass to Boston. If he wanted to go to Philly, send his ass to Philly. But the minute that Dame made that request, they should have accommodated him, and then the franchise wouldn't look as bad and foolish as they look right now. So
that's what Philly should have done. Tried to snag Dame for Harden.
They talked about it though. There were talks last year about Dame looking at Philly. Dame was actually wanting to play with. This is before Harden got there. Dame was really looking at, hey, I can play with a big like Joel Embiid. We actually talked about that on here, and it would have been a good move for them. But for whatever reason, the trade didn't happen. They got James Harden. Look what happened there. Guaranteed shit shows. I'm going to end it with this.
What's funny is Brooklyn has done that twice now since they rebranded and moved. Because the first instance they tried to do it with Paul Pierce, Garnett, and Joe Johnson, in the like the limelight of their careers, all blew up. Eventually, they rebuild back into the other Hydra monster, which is KD, Kyrie, and Harden, which on paper sounds a lot better. But because the variables of all three of those guys, they're already
Yeah.
all gone off the team
Yeah. Yeah.
with nothing to show
Um,
for it except a slight playoff run one year because of KD.
right. Because all on KD, yeah, because
All on
everybody else
KD,
was
not
hurt.
because the other
Right.
guys did anything.
Yeah. And that was an even though it didn't result in a championship, that was an impressive run. I will say that. That KD, he did his thing. He tried. I'm gonna say this. The last thing. Because there is a report out there. I have to double check this really quick because I don't know if you've heard this report. It's hilarious to me, and it's so desperate from the player standpoint, not necessarily from the team standpoint. But there is a report that Dwight Howard and the Golden State Warriors should come to an agreement really soon.
Really? Because I thought the most recent thing I saw was that it's not gonna happen now.
Let me look that up.
I saw they were
What do
having a
you
discussion and a meeting, but then I saw it's not gonna happen.
What do you think about Dwight Howard seeming so desperate to get back into the NBA?
Um, I don't I don't really know like what his motives are. If it's like financially, if it's just like being a presence, like being a famous athlete here. Like I don't know what it is. Because it's not necessarily. I mean, when was the last time he played effective minutes on an NBA team? I mean, it's been too long, in my
It
opinion.
was in
It's
the
like,
bubble. I'll give him that. It was in the bubble.
yeah, but not like. Let's be real. He's like a bench guy with limited minutes. Like it's not much to
Yeah.
offer. Like I don't get. I guess if he still just really wants to play for the sake of playing over here, then that I understand. Or like needing some money or something, that I understand. I guess at this point, I don't understand the attention around him. Like, there's, I mean, how many older NBA players talk like this that play in other leagues? I mean, we could probably find quite a few. I just don't understand the attention around Dwight Howard, I guess, anymore. Like, I understood it when he was in Orlando or right after before he got hurt and things like that. Like, he's a superstar in the league. I get it. I don't understand it now. Like I don't understand why this is even a news story. What he wants to do. I'm sure he vets and people out of the league meet with teams all the time. Like I don't even understand why this is a thing though. I guess because it's just Dwight Howard. I don't. He didn't do enough to for me to be so worried about him this late in his career when he's not even playing in the
Mhm.
NBA as much anymore.
At some point, players need to accept when it's over. And I'm not saying Dwight Howard can't play basketball. It's not what I'm talking about. But as far as his NBA career, it's pretty much a wrap. And he has to accept that. And it's not even for his own court play, it is for the multitude of off the court shit that some people don't even know about that we know about. And teams don't have time for that. It's
Okay, so
like get your life together first.
right, like Carmelo Anthony,
Mhm.
like me, that like if this was Carmelo Anthony in this situation, that would make way more sense to me than Dwight Howard. Like
Mhm.
it seems like there could be a little more interest in him, but like he knows he's not gonna be able to do the things he wants to do on a team to feel like he wants to get out there and play anymore. Our team's gonna pay him enough to come and play this little limited role. Like there's so many variables, right? But like Carmelo stayed more relevant towards the end of his career, I felt like than Dwight Howard did. That like even that would make more sense to me than Dwight Howard at this point in his career. Like it's so weird to me.
Right.
It's so weird to me, like kind of pointless. If you're Dwight Howard, it's not pointless to you because this is what you want to do. But for everybody else, it's like I don't get it. But I've never been on the Dwight Howard like bandwagon as much. Like I was appreciative of his time in Orlando. It was amazing, and it was the last time we were super relevant. I'm appreciative of all those things. I just wasn't ever caught up in, I guess, like the mystique of Dwight Howard. Like I guess so. I don't understand it as much, but I mean he's just trying to, I guess, do what he feels like he should be doing. But I like I said, I don't understand it. I don't understand the fact that it's like newsworthy.
Right, right. The wrap. Thank you guys for sharing our content, subscribing, and liking our content. We appreciate all you guys. Everyone stay safe, and we are out.